Damn, this episode puts a whole different perspective on Zeke Yeager. I feel bad for little Zeke, but presently Zeke is still a huge jerk. Well, the end is almost here, folks. This is second to last episode of Attack on Titan in its last season. The next episode that's airing this upcoming weekend would be the last episode of this season as of right now. There is no confirmation yet if there's going to be a part 2 for season 4 or it's gonna end in the movie. With that mentioned, I will now do my review on episode 15 from start to finish and will give my thoughts on it throughout this video. The episode starts off with a time skip to the past where we have little Zeke and his parents are outside of Liberio looking from far in a high building. His father, Grisha Yeager, who's soon to be father of Eren Yeager, sometime later. But never mind that. Grisha tells his son the place they live in is a birdcage compared to a world, and since they can't leave, they'll have to spend their lives in the zone until they die. He asks babyface Zeke, "When you like to leave?" and he replies yes. Then an old man who works as a janitor of the building comes in and seems to be nice to them as he didn't notice a family being there. However, when he took a good look at them and sees Grisha's armband, his face turns irritated from looking at them as he says, "Oh, Eldians." And after saying that, the old man splashes the bucket of water towards them. Grisha said they got permission to leave the walls. The old man said to him it's his job to clean the tower and get rid of trash, claiming since they came, they dirtied the place. Though that's pretty much not true. That's just his prejudice saying, since they were Eldians and not Marlians. He goes on to tell them that the Eldian kind slaughtered many people and couldn't believe that you Eldians are popping out kids. After that incident, the family leaves and get ridiculed by the Marlians in public. While carrying Zeke in his arms, Grisha tells his son to remember this, that this is the outside world. He tells little Zeke if he doesn't like it, you gotta change it, and follows up saying, "Zeke, you will save everyone." Soon after that, we see trainings going on and Zeke is part of it. He's not doing too great compared to other kids. And we see young Commander Magav and Mr. K-Saver on their horses looking over the kids training. Out of the group, Mr. K-Saver spots Zeke struggling and asks who he is. Magav replies in disappointment, Yeager again. Magav goes on that while the other kids are competing to be honorary Marlians, Zeke has no drive and doesn't know why he even comes to compete. Later that day, Zeke walks home with his parents. Grisha asks how training was, and Zeke said it was tough. Grisha encourages him that he knows Zeke can be a warrior one day, and the mom said, "You have a special power." And from what I could believe, that could mean in a different standpoint is that Zeke has lower blood through his mom, which is what his mom is referring to. Once he got home, Grisha and his wife drop off Zeke with his grandparents. We see Grisha's dad telling to Zeke's parents they're going to their quote-unquote dance club again. He tells them Zeke misses you, though the parents said it's for the wellness of Liberio, and someday Zeke will understand why they're doing this. Soon later, Zeke's grandpa reads Zeke a history book of the tragedy of Lago, which took place 1,200 years ago. The story goes as the Titans destroyed the city in one day and caused mass panic and horrors, with the number of Marlians and tens of thousands being killed by Eldia. The grandpa then continues, the survivors of Lago fled to the countryside, however Eldia made the Titans to follow them, and at daytime the Titans attacked. Zeke answers his grandpa that yeah, a lot of people died, which is the obvious answer since you're talking about Titans. Zeke's grandpa asks Zeke if his parents are teaching him the actual history. Zeke says yes, and his dad told him that Eldia did horrible things to Marlians and they need to atone for that. The grandpa asks him another question if he wants to be a warrior and fight for Marley. Zeke looks down and doesn't answer right away. He then answers to them, "Yeah, I want to become a warrior." Hearing that, the grandpa tells him it's bedtime, and the grandma tries to lighten the mood that she'll read Zeke a cat house book, which sounds more appropriate to read to a kid at his age and not reading mass genocide history to a child. When they all left, Zeke stares at a portrait of his kid dad and his dead kid aunt. The next day, Zeke is back to the training facility, and he with the other candidates try to craft a gun in a short time, and Zeke messes that up. After that embarrassing moment, he walks alone with his head down in disappointment. Then he sees a kid and a father playing with an old football, and from far, Zeke sees they're having a great bond together. When he comes home, he goes to his dad in excitement that he finished early and wants to play with him. However, before he finished his sentence, Grisha said good they could study more. Zeke with a blue face says right. Later that day, Grisha teaches Zeke about the tragedy of Lago to him. However, this history version went different as Grisha states the event never happened and the other stories were made up by Marley. He follows up that Eldians never had cruel ambitions, and Zeke tells him the founder Ymir wouldn't want that. That response made Grisha happy that his son was spot on and he passed his head. From that small history lesson, we see a different scene where Magav tells Zeke to buzz off. He tells him that Marley needs people to give their all to the nation. Magav says there's no way they leave a Titan to someone like Zeke. After that statement, Zeke was walking outside and a baseball stumbles in front of him. A voice calls Zeke to toss his ball back, and that man who calls Zeke is no other than K-Saver, and Zeke tosses in the ball with a good throw as K-Saver Saver puts it. He tossed the ball to Zeke, and once he caught it, K-Saver said to him, "Nice catch." He invites Zeke to play ball with him, and Zeke notices the armband K-Saver is wearing. K-Saver replies he's a Marlian warrior that Zeke's aiming to be, though he confesses that his Beast Titan isn't too good at war. He introduces himself to Zeke that he's Tom K-Saver, a Titan researcher. K-Saver asks for Zeke's name, and he replies Zeke Yeager. He compliments Zeke that he could be a good pitcher. Zeke blushes from that compliment. Later that night, Zeke gets home, enters the house, and says he's here. The house was dark from the inside, and Zeke hears a voice from one of the light-up rooms and goes to it. Zeke takes a peek through the open door. He sees his father, Grisha, having a conversation with a man called Grice. Grice tells Grisha that the owl can influence the decision of their plan unless Zeke gets decent scores. Grisha says he knows a chance like this comes once in a century. Zeke's mom asks if Zeke still has a shot in becoming a warrior. Grisha, with his hand on his forehead, says yeah if Zeke steps up, and then he stops talking once he notices Zeke was behind the door. Grisha opens the door, and all three adults are looking at Zeke with desperation in their eyes. Zeke says sorry, thinking it was wrong to spy at his parents. However, his dad grabs him with tears in his eyes, begging Zeke that he can inherit the warrior titan. And from looking at Zeke, Grisha's putting a lot of weight and stress onto Zeke that he must get the warrior titan. But Grisha isn't encouraging him. He's demanding Zeke that he must inherit the warrior titan. Bad parenting, if you ask me. The next day, Magath asks Zeke why he returned to training. As he mentioned, Marley doesn't need him. Zeke tells him that he wants to show his loyalty to Marley and atone for Eldia's sins. He was allowed to train with the other kid soldiers, doing some cardio training with heavy equipment. Zeke's parents were there from behind a fence, spectating. And of course, the same old happens as Zeke is once again left behind from the group in the running lap. Zeke is doing his best and breathing heavily. We see the look at the parents' faces in disbelief and their desires going down the drain. Zeke notices it and stops running. As we see Grisha walks away and the mother turns her back, it seems to try to get Grisha to come back. Zeke couldn't believe what he just saw. And from the background, Magath tells Zeke what he's doing and to run the course. And from there, it doesn't get any better for Zeke as it later transitions to Zeke in his home crying with his hands covering his ears as his dad is cursing from behind the door and the mom tries to console him that Zeke is trying his best. Grisha says he'll never be a warrior like this while continuing yelling and does the door. The next day, K-Saver and Zeke play catch together, and K-Saver pokes fun at Zeke that he was a mess the other day. Zeke tells him it's not funny and it's all over for him as he's now an errand boy. K-Saver says to Zeke that from his view, he feels that Zeke never wanted to be a warrior titan. Zeke looks down saying he has to become one, but instead he fails to do so. K-Saver tries to cheer him up that it's no big deal and it's stupid for Zeke to become a warrior, and says it's done to shorten life for Marley and fight with other nations. Zeke was scared someone heard that and asked K-Saver why he became a warrior. He tells him it's to research about Titans since he's a researcher himself. K-Saver tells Zeke about the founder Ymir touching something and he wants to learn about it, which was enough to shorten his life or Titan memories. He tells Zeke that he's no good when it comes to war, and when it comes to Titans, hate and war is insignificant. From that dark statement, he tells Zeke along with himself that they are not interested when it comes to Marley's warfares, following up that him and Zeke are the only decent people and jokes that they're a rare pair in this world. After the conversation, Zeke mops with Florez and is in high spirits from what K-Saver said to him that as long as he's alive, it would be best for him. Zeke then walks down the hallway with his mob and overhears the conversation of Marlian authorities saying they got a lead on the Eldian extortionists. Zeke stopped for a moment and asked one of the guys mentioned the owl, the person who formed the group. They state it's just a matter of time until they get some solid evidence to get them. Overhearing them goes to Zeke zoning out as his mother calls him if anything is wrong as he's now back home eating dinner. Zeke tells mom that his stomach hurts. Zeke looks up and makes eye contact with his dad. Grisha gives Zeke a blank stare while eating his bread. He looks down and sighs, looking the other way, giving the impression that he's uninterested in Zeke after not being able to become a warrior. Zeke becomes upset and finally tells his parents to stop doing dangerous things. Zeke, with distress in his eyes, tells them if they find out about it, they'll be sent to Paradise Island and get turned into devils, aka Titans. And Zeke sees a cold stare from his dad as Grisha tells him, "Have you learned nothing that I taught you?" Grisha tells Zeke they'll live pitiful lives in his cage unless someone takes a stand. The same cold stare is seen in Zeke's mom as she agrees with Grisha as she says they're fighting for the future of Eldia, including Zeke's. Zeke responds to them even there's a chance he might end up like Aunt Frey. That comment that Zeke mentioned is still with Grisha as he bangs the table, yells at Zeke that Frey died because the world was twisted. And because of that, him and his his wife are doing what they're doing so that no one ends up like graded. And Grisha goes further on that they'll restore Elliot's strength and to win their rights. This whole conversation started with Zeke trying to persuade his parents to understand they're putting their lives on the line as well as their family. Really put a toll on Zeke as he couldn't take his father's scolding anymore and begins to cry. The next day, Zeke tells K7 everything about his parents being part of the Eldia restorationists. K7 couldn't believe it and said to Zeke, "You all will be sent to Paradise Island." Knowing that, Zeke tearfully says his thanks and goodbye to K-Saber, also telling K-Saber when he turns to a Titan, he'll always remember him. As Zeke is heading his way out, K-Saber tells Zeke to report his parents, saying it's his only hope, so he'll prove himself loyal to Marley, sparing himself and his grandparents. Zeke says to K-Saber that he won't ever do that, but K-Saber tells Zeke the harsh reality that his parents have been terrible to him and they never care about his feelings after they give up on him, as well as they never loved him as their son. While saying those reasons, we see Zeke reporting his parents, and you can see on his parents' faces that they're in dismay that their own child reported on them. It was the right choice to make, though it must have been hard on Zeke, as once they got into custody, K-Saber was there by Zeke's side and hugged Zeke as all this is unfolded. After that emotional scene, a time skip occurs and it shows K-Saber and a now grown-up late teen Zeke playing catch together. K-Saber said to Zeke he throws the ball too hard. Zeke replies he throws it too hard for a geese like K-Saber. K-Saber gets a bit annoyed from his comment but starts coughing, which makes Zeke concerned. K-Saber claims it won't be long until his time is up since he's nearing his 13-year Titan term. While they both talk to each other, we see the upcoming candidates inheriting the next Titans, and these next candidates are kid versions of familiar faces that we all know, such as Reiner, Berhalter, Annie, Peck, Porco, and his brother Marcel, who unfortunately didn't make it past his teenage years. Back to the conversation, K-Saber talked about how he would share his research on the founding Titan and the subjects of the Ymir. Zeke was familiar with it and thought K-Saber represent the part of rewriting memories, and K-Saber tells him not just that, but changing the anatomy of bodies. K-Saber explains that terrible epidemic happened 600 years ago, which messed up the population, but all of a sudden, the disease vanished from the Eldian Empire like poof, magic. K-Saber found out that the king of Elia at that time used the founding Titan to change how their bodies work. This worked to every subject of Ymir whenever they were, as they're all connected to the founding Titan. Hearing that, Zeke remembered the time when the old man said to his family, "Why is your kind still pumping out more kids?" Zeke asked K-Saber if it's possible for the founding Titan to make sure that Eldians can bear children, believing if no Eldians were able to have kids, then the Titans would be wiped out in 100 years. This catches K-Saber's realization that it's a possibility. As Zeke goes on, if they haven't been born, they wouldn't have to suffer. Zeke tossed the ball to K-Saber, but K-Saber just stood still and didn't react, which makes Zeke call his name to get his attention. K-Saber reveals the secret to Zeke, telling him he had a family once. When K-Saber was young, he will remove his armband and hid the fact that he was Eldian. He had a wife and a son. He reveals that his wife was Marlian. He knew he couldn't hide the fact that he was Eldian forever, but his wife found out he was an Eldian, so as a result, she slit her son's throat and her own, and of course they both ended up dead. K-Saber reveals that him becoming a warrior was a way of taking his own life, since Titan Shifters could only live for 13 years. For those 13 years, he was set on time research, met Zeke, played catch, and had a fun time. K-Saber comes forward that he looked for his son in Zeke. He ran away from his problems with his Titan powers. Once he revealed his motive, K-Saber gets on his knees and cries as he wishes he wasn't born in this world. Zeke tells him he will inherit the Beast Titan, but not from Marley. He will retake the founding Titan and save the world to free the world from Titans and free the suffering Eldians. K-Saber reveals another secret to Zeke that he hasn't told Marley, a way to break this curse. He states it can only be done with Zeke. He explains if a Titan with lower blood makes contact with the founding Titan, its power can be drawn, though Zeke can tap into it as it only lies on the holder of the founding Titan, though he is a key in all of it to happen. So whoever has the founding Titan needs to be someone Zeke trusts and understands the euthanization plan. After that discussion, it transitions to K-Saber being tied in chains and sacrificed to Zeke, so he'll inherit the Beast Titan. As it presents Zeke turning back into human form and inheriting the Beast Titan from K-Saber, K-Saber's voice is still heard as he says to Zeke he'll always watch over him. Zeke turning back to a human puts on K-Saber's glasses and says he'll find someone and calls K-Saber father. Another time skip happens into a couple years on the port of Paradise Island. We see Reiner Berhalter there telling Zeke there's a person named Aaron Yeager who has the founding Titan, and Reiner also says there's important info in Aaron's house basement in Shiganshina district. Zeke asks him if Eren mentioned anything about his father. Berhalter answers and says his father went missing and used to be a doctor. Hearing that from Berhalter, Zeke was starstruck. He moved into a small room and couldn't believe his biological father was alive. Zeke held his hands over his head and thought of his half-brother Eren, saying they've been victims and Eren has been brainwashed by their dad, and so Zeke vows to find his brother Eren and rescue him. After that, we transition to another few more years of Eren and Zeke meeting up with each other in Marley. Zeke pops up and tells Eren he resembles their father a bit. They both meet up and Zeke says his thanks for Eren for meeting him. Zeke begins and states his stance is exactly what Yelena has told him. Zeke asks Eren if he's on board on Eldian equalization plan. Eren responded that 4 years ago some of their dad's memories were shown to him. Those memories reveal the time when his dad killed the Wall's boy family. He remembers a time when his dad crushed the kids and smeared them like bugs and claims he felt it. He tells Zeke if those kids would have lived, the warrior family would still have the founding titan, and by the vow of renouncing war, humanity and the walls would have been doomed, and since those kids died, it let them live. Zeke asks if Eren believes their dad was right. Eren says no, their dad was wrong, and as well as himself was wrong too. Eren explains if aliens had been born in the city, people wouldn't have to die in their plan. On top of saying that, Eren believes there's no great salvation than never being born in this world. He faces Zeke and says he'll put an end to the 2,000 years of Titan domination, and until then he'll keep moving forward, which by the way that line that Eren said pretty much sums up this season of Attack on Titan. Eren agrees with Zeke's plan, which made Zeke shed a tear and said, yeah, let's do this. Hearing what Eren had to say, Zeke wished to shake his hand but knows they shouldn't make contact yet, so instead he gives Eren his baseball and tells Eren, you're gonna save everyone. After that moment, it flashes to the present time where it's raining and Zeke is being held trapped by Levi. Once Zeke woke up, he said their salvation was Eldia's equalization. Levi hears what Zeke said. Hearing his plans, he reminds him that he's going to be fed to a Titan's mouth, also being digested by the Titan's mouth will be a pleasant way to die, just as Zeke did to Levi's comrades. Zeke replies to Levi that he didn't steal their lives, he saved their lives, as well as saving the lives of their future children having to bear in this cruel world. Levi had enough of Zeke yapping, so he whips out his sword to cut Zeke's legs. Zeke, however, wasn't bothered as he keeps talking, yelling from the top of his lungs, isn't that right, Mr. K-Saver? I hope you're watching. And this madman moves his body outwards, which ignited the thunder spear attached to his body. Everything goes in slow motion to even the raindrops, and then kaboom, a huge explosion occurs. Levi's body being launched to the freaking sky all the way to the heavens. Bits of the horse carriage scattering all over, and the upper half of Zeke's body flies up and lands on the ground. Not even the horses were spared, and they ended up burning alive. And from that incident, the big black smoke cloud appears, getting bigger as it reaches high above the trees towards the sky, as the episode ends there. Well, damn, after that episode, you gotta feel bad for Zeke. He had such a bad childhood, with very terrible parents who only cared about their own Eldian distortionist objectives more than Zeke's well-being. Moral of the story, Grisha is a terrible father. He's up there winning the #1 award of worst dad, and with that, he deserves one clap for winning that award. And while this episode is literally the second to last episode of this season for part 1, and the second part, which are going to be a couple more episodes or a movie, not too sure which is going to be, but I know for sure it's probably going to come out sometime next year for you anime only watchers. Now with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel for more Attack on Titan content, and see y'all next time in the next video. Peace.